Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path of recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Two guys on their own path and a lady on her own path. Yes.
Nice.
Two guys and a girl. How you doing? Good morning, Peggy.
Good morning.
Peggy, welcome. Great to have you.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is fantastic. I love
You saw my sober
Table
brother.
for Three. Yeah, I know,
Table
right?
for Three is awesome.
Yeah, so we're glad to be back here again, and want to thank Audio Hive and Brian for keeping the coffee shop open for us.
Chicagoland.
Yeah, right. And a little U2 going there, and it gets you moving there a little.
I know. I love at the end of the podcast where he says, thank you, Chicago.
Thank you, Chicago.
I love it because we were in Chicagoland.
Yeah, no, but what about the listeners that are in Malaysia?
Well, we should drop the Malaysian one because U2 has been in Malaysia also.
All right,
So,
there you go. So Peggy,
Peggy, welcome.
Yes, it's so good to have you here. We share the same friends, and I've heard your story before, and it was just so uplifting, and that's what I'm so excited you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I have not heard it, so I'm super excited.
Oh,
Yeah. Hey, is there any way I can stand up?
Sure. You're a stander, huh?
I'm a stander because, I feel like my energy is really low when I sit.
Yeah.
So I have better energy when I stand.
So when you work, do you
I don't work. I'm retired. One of the blessings of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh, and
Nice.
I got to tell you something. She said that with a big old smile.
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
If we were video, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the blessings of AA, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what got you here.
So, do I say, hi, everyone, my name is Peggy, and I'm an alcoholic?
Absolutely.
This
Yeah.
is
I
a
love
coffee
that.
shop. You can do whatever you
Yeah,
want.
okay,
That's
good. I can't swear, though, right?
Yes, you
swear.
can.
Oh, I
You
can swear? Oh, I love it.
Giddy up.
I'm the only one that's not allowed to swear anymore.
Okay.
That's right.
Thanks,
All right.
Mikey.
Well, I'll try not to swear because I am a lady now, but once in a while it slips out. So, hi, everyone. My name is Peggy, and I'm an alcoholic.
Peggy.
And thanks, guys, for asking me to come. This is a little different format that I'm used to, but, I'm into anything, so I love it. And, what it was like, what happened, and what I'm like now, experience, strength, and hope. My experience, as a kid, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I lived in a family of 6, which included my mom and 4 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And we all beat the crap out of each other.
Sure.
I had my mother in a headlock when she was, when I was 16 years old, and we were all fighting each other and trying to survive. And I had to leave that house often because I didn't feel safe there. So what I did is I ran to a friend's house at age 11 years old. And I went there on a daily basis because I just didn't want to be home. I didn't fit in that home. I wasn't the real violent one. I had to get violent to survive, but I didn't. My soul didn't scream violence, So I would go to my friend Lori's house and hang out there, and there is where I started, smoking my pot and doing my acid, and at a very young age, 11, 12 years old, and I got it. I mean, that's where it began, right? And I did my life backwards, There's a lot going on here, so it's sort of distracting, but I'm trying to stay on point. There was a lot. I did my life backwards. That's the way I like to describe who I am. I started drinking and drugging at age 11. I got pregnant at 17. I graduated from high school. And then I got pregnant again. And then I got married. And then I went to college. And then I went to then I went and got my master's.
Wow.
So if you flip that, it's actually
right.
like probably the normies,
Right.
don't have that, trajectory. But
That's right.
that's how that happened to me. And unfortunately, I got pregnant because of my alcoholism and doing things that I normally wouldn't do under the influence or wouldn't do, and I had to place that baby up for adoption because my family gave me no other choice. So it was either that or I don't support this child with nothing. Mm-hmm. So I did that, and then ended up marrying a man in the same group of people, and I had a child with him. And I didn't like him. I didn't like the child. I wanted out. I didn't like me. I couldn't. In my last drunk, I had 10 Long Island iced teas and doing shit that I wasn't supposed to be doing, as a married woman. And a lot of women feel the shame. I didn't really feel the shame, and I don't know why that is, but I didn't really feel the shame. I was that kid that walked on wet concrete through a rocket your picture window and then screwed up all your Christmas lights. I was the Dennis de Menace and, a little bit of Moxie in me. I just couldn't deal with life and didn't. I graduated 389 out of my high school, graduation, and there were 400 kids in the class, and I was the big dummy. I was dumb, and I thought I was dumb. I'm not dumb. And so I did that chicken dance, and then 2 months later, I'm placing a baby up for adoption. Everything was a joke. I came home after placing her up for adoption and did a line on my marble countertop. It's just, my mind wasn't my mind, and I didn't know it. I thought everybody did this. I thought everybody acted like this, and and then I found myself married to this man that was very controlling and of who I was, and I couldn't stand him. And he was my best friend prior to making it the deal, and he was very loving and very kind through my pregnancy of placing a baby up for adoption. Anyway, I married him, had this child, and I'm looking at this kid, and I'm looking at him going, what did I do with my life? I'm a moron. I don't want to marry. I don't want to be married to him, and this kid is weighing me down, and it was a burden. And not a lot of women can get honest with that, and it was. And my last drunk was I was at a party, and I brought my kid to the party, and someone had said to me, your daughter is in the corner crying. And I went there, and I was jacked. And I looked at her, and she just had these big brown eyes, and she looked up at me crying. And I got her out of there. They let me go home, and I drove the alley home, because I could do that on 79th and Kedzie all the way to 85th and Kedzie. I drove that alley home, and I
10 Long Island iced teas.
Pardon?
Is that the one where you had 10 Long Island iced teas?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe they let me get in the car with my daughter, and I hit all of the garbage cans, and I crawled across a field and finally got her home safe and got myself home safe. Thank you, Lord. And woke up in the morning and said, something's got to change. And a friend called me and said, can I have your mom's phone number? Now, see, my mom's been sober now. I told my mom I was pregnant with my first child when she was a year sober. And she asked me for my mom's phone number. And I said, why do you want my mom's number? And I was sort of a nightmare in my living room in the morning. I knew something had to change. I didn't know if it was drinking, but I thought maybe it has something to do with this drinking. And so I said, well, my mom's on vacation, but I do have this guy's number in my complex. I know that he goes to AA, and I'll go with you. And I don't know where that came from. I'll go with you. So, that's one of the promises. God will do for you what you cannot do for yourself. And it started coming true for me earlier than after the 9th step. I got a lot of the promises, or I recognized a lot of the promises. I don't know if I got them, but I recognized them. I recognize them today. And so I went to this meeting. I walked in laughing, because I was the clown. I was the 389, and I didn't want to learn. Not that I didn't want to learn. I had a behavioral problem. And so I was ADHD and back in that day.
Undiagnosed.
Yeah,
Right.
undiagnosed, they just hit you.
Yeah, they didn't have that back then, did they?
No. They just,
Right?
you're right.
They just hit me and they put me in high chairs and oh my God.
I got thrown into a garbage can in 5th grade. Physically thrown into a garbage can. That was, very
Yeah, in kindergarten, I remember her putting me in a closet with a bucket over my head, and I could hear and she turned off the light. She was so mad at me, and I could hear the ding, ding, ding on the bucket.
right.
Today they would
Yeah,
have
sure,
fit with
no,
that.
no.
Anyway, but so I went to this meeting laughing, and I ended up talking to the chairperson afterwards, and he went to St. Rita, and I said to him, hey, did you happen to know my brother, Kevin Regan? And he said, yeah, I knew your brother. And I said, I know, I miss him every day. My brother died. He was hit over the head with a 2x4 when I was 20 and he was 19, and we were frickin' frack, and so I thought, well, this is sort of spiritual, or this guy knows my brother, and at this point, my brother is my God, right? Because I'm pissed at God because he took my brother from me, and my big thing is everyone's got their thing. My thing is abandonment, and while my brother didn't abandon me, that's what it felt like, and God abandoned me, and not that he was ever real important in my life, but am I going on too long, guys?
No, not at all.
Okay, because I feel like, I'm Irish, so I've got
Mikey,
this
you're not sleeping,
story.
are you?
No, this is.
Come on, man.
I love
Okay.
it. I mean, you just hit a chord with me too. Just the whole abandonment thing. My dad died in a car accident when I was a kid, and I was mad at him. I'm like, how do you get mad? It was a car accident, but I was angry at him.
Yeah.
How could he do that?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just really hit a chord with me. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, well, my dad left 5 kids and mom to raise us, and
That's abandonment.
never even acknowledged us, just bad.
Yeah.
But so I'm always, I always love when somebody tells me a dad story, because I'm like, oh, you had a dad, that's so sweet,
Right, sure.
And that's one reason I placed my first child up for adoption. I wanted her to have a dad. I mean, I didn't have a dad, and I know that I was promiscuous because I didn't have a father, and I did the things that I probably wouldn't have done if I would have had a loving dad in my life. So, but anyway, so my thing was abandonment, and I thought, oh, well, maybe this AA is something. I think I'll come back. So the second meeting I went to Keene gas station on 81st and Kedzie, and I bought to buy my 7 packs of cigarettes because I was so nervous, and there were all my brother's pallbearers. And I walked in, and my eyes, I must have looked like, what the heck? And I just looked at him, and I just bust out crying, like, oh my God, my brother. I can cry today. Like, my brother is totally with me. I got God bumps, he's totally with me, and I'm going down this right path. And they gave me a hug. They thought I was crying about him, but I really wasn't crying about him. I was emotional because I knew that something was going to change in my life, and that I was going to be for the better. And so I went to that meeting, and of course it was all men, and I was like, oh my God, I have arrived.
There we go.
I'm going to find my new husband here, and
Within 3 weeks.
so I'm like, oh, excuse me, is this a men's meeting? And they're like, no, come on in. I'm like, okay. So I went to the meeting, and the chairperson, again, I talked to, because I was all very new about this, so I sort of figured out that, he was running the meeting, and I went and talked to him, and I said, you look real familiar. And so we started talking, and he said, I said, well, do you know Joan and Bernie? And he said, yeah, I'm really good friends with Joan and Bernie. And I go, well, I'm Joan's daughter, but don't tell her I'm here because, I'm not all in,
Yeah, right,
and if,
Toes in the water.
Toes in the water.
and he goes, no problem. And he said, you probably know me from your brother's wake. And I was like, oh, there's another. There it is,
Yep.
So I went home, and I started getting really excited a little bit, like, okay, maybe I found some help. And I just kept coming to AA, with the little marijuana maintenance program on the side, because I smoked pot, and I love pot, and I love to zone out, and I would love to smoke pot today, but I can't. I won't. It's not an option for me. So for 2 years, I was on the marijuana maintenance program, having a lot of fun in AA, going to the dances and just having so much fun and really enjoying the fellowship. I immersed myself in the fellowship because I was 26 years old, the first 6 months, of course, was hard. I was like, so wait a minute. I'm not going to be able to drink champagne at my daughter's wedding. Are you kidding me?
How old was your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter was 3.
Yeah,
Somebody asks, how old is your
you
daughter?
go.
She's 3.
Yeah.
And they're
Amazing
like, well,
how that works.
I know, right? The mind, like, how am I never going to drink again? How is that going to happen? And, I meet people who are big drinkers today, and they'll say, how do you not drink? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, if you only knew, I think the older you get, it's probably harder to stop because it's big infiltration in your life. It's part of your life.
Yep.
It's just there. So I quit drinking, but I kept smoking pot until I ended up at a picnic and someone was like, "You're stoned." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Oh, I got to put this down." So I did. I put it down and I stopped smoking pot, and I've had continuous sobriety since. And
That was a couple 24 hours ago.
yeah, a couple 24 hours ago. Yeah. So my daughter right now that I've gone to her first wedding. There might be a second wedding, but I went to her first wedding and I didn't have to drink, which was amazing. And I enjoyed myself thoroughly at that wedding, and I enjoy myself thoroughly today. Through a lot of pain, I was able to get healthy and, understand what my quirks are. And I am extremely codependent on people. And I understood where that came from. That came from going to my friend Lori's house on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. That was safety. She was safety.
Sure.
She was my safety. And so from a very young age, people became my safety. And I don't have to do that today anymore.
But you know what I see is so beautiful in the community and our fellowship is that you are other people's safety now.
Yeah.
You live to be safety to somebody else who is walking into a meeting with 7 packs of cigarettes going, I don't know if I'm not all in,
Yeah,
That's awesome.
But you're safety for those people. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I am. I sponsor about 5 women today, and that's my limit.
Yeah.
And some of them don't call me. They're not. Some of them have long-term sobriety, and they're not calling me as much as I'd like them to call me. So I have a month meeting. Once a month, we have a meeting, and we talk about a step, and we go through the 12 and 12. And it's really nice. It sounds sort of, everybody gets sober at. However, but it sounds sort of like I am the master and you are my, whatever. And I'm like, I don't want it to get like that, guys. I just am doing it from a time standpoint.
Yeah,
right.
Like I can't meet with you once a week. I have a family now, and I love my family, and I love sobriety, and I get to live the real life, But, we end up going through those steps, and I help them immensely from what I hear. And, the bottom line is they help me.
Yeah.
Like there was one girl that got sober.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
It is amazing. Like there's one girl that I sponsor, and she was getting sober through COVID. Mm-hmm. And I turned her on to some really good Zoom meetings where the sobriety I knew was excellent. And she ended up staying in those rooms and going every Tuesdays and Thursday. And I wasn't going every Tuesday and Thursday, but in the beginning I was, but it sort of wore off for me. But thank God I had enough insurance in the bank. And I still went to meetings. But she went to those meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she got sober. But what we did was we talked every single day, and she became a really good friend. So we're trudging those waters a little bit, because I think it's really hard to sponsor somebody who you're becoming a really good friend with. Because I have to put my sponsor hat on, then I have to take it off, then I have to put it on, then
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose her as a friend. Okay, so I have that codependency piece, so I've got to watch that too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that I get to watch today.
You get to watch.
I get
Awareness,
to watch
yeah.
awareness of
A lot of awareness.
yeah, like okay, like you don't have to be this way, Peggy. That emotional maturity is just phenomenal.
Go ahead.
And that's what Bill Wilson talks about. If anybody, this is for old timers, because I read it when I was a newcomer and it didn't really sit, but it's to the frontiers from Bill Wilson, and it's a letter on emotional sobriety. It is phenomenal. For me, it is the everything.
Yeah.
Because he talks about dependency on people, places, and things. Right? We were dependent on alcohol. That was my safety net. That guarded me. That was my armor. In many, many cases. So now I stopped the alcohol. Now the people are my armor in many, many cases. Lost a really good friend in sobriety. Broke the friendship. Terrible. Sent me into this journey to find out about my codependency. And codependency is when I start depending on that person for safety. My social, she's at my everything, or he's my everything, and don't do that anymore today. It's a beautiful thing.
So I have to jump in. So, clearly I'm hearing a message of hope. Have you, quote unquote, arrived, or are you still in the pool? Are you still trying to grow?
Oh, I'm still in the pool. I'll be in the pool until I die.
Love it.
More will be revealed. And I will be in the pool for a long time until I die, because more gets revealed every single day. I definitely found my core, my pain, and how to manage that. And in the big book, it says, or in the 12 and 12, it says in step 3, the more dependent we are, the more independent we become. And I am completely dependent on God today. I have my little brother who I listen to on the radio. I got here at 8:03. That's his heaven date, and he's still with me. Do You Believe in Miracles came on the radio, and that is a special song between me and him. And those little things that happen to me, and people might say, "Oh, she's so out there." Yeah, a lot of God shots all day long. So, yeah, I'm still swimming. I'm still learning. I guess I could talk about some of my gifts in sobriety. Right now,
Please.
This is the hope. So, you've heard about my experience getting into Alcoholics Anonymous. You heard about my pain and how I had to go through that. I went through that through God. People say that the first step is the step you have to get perfectly. I am now saying to my sponsees, the third step is something you need to get like 99.9999% right.
Make that decision.
Because I would never be where I'm at today if I didn't take a break and be with God for 2 years and cancel everybody out of my life except my inner circle. Don't let anybody else in. Just commune with God and walk with Him and listen to Him and grow. And I did that for 2 years. My sponsor was on me and said, you need to slow down. Because see, what I was doing is when I lost my friend, I was running to that friend and this friend and this friend and this friend. They were all going to have my social. I can't lose anymore. I can't lose friends. Friends are so much to me and blah, blah, blah. Well, what about God? God is so much to me today. He's either everything or He's nothing, and that is my experience and strength. And my hope is, this program gave me a lot of hope. So I was at 398. I went back and got my undergrad. I graduated 3.95 or something, cum laude. And then I went and on to get my master's, in which I got a 4.0.
Wow.
So I am a smart cookie.
Yeah, right.
What's your master's in?
Business.
Nice.
Yeah. And I had a beautiful boss who said to me, he did the finger thing, come on in my room. And I'm like, oh, shit, I'm in trouble again.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, what are you doing with your money? And that was at age 28. I just had put down the marijuana. And I said, well, he's like, you're going on vacation, you're doing this, you're having a lot of fun. You need to save your money. And he got me into like 401k. So that was like a blessing. If I was out drinking, I'd be like, fuck him, I'm going out and doing whatever I want, But so having a sober mind allowed me to save my money and allowed me to not overspend as far as overextend my finances.
And you built a financially stable life to where now you're retired.
I'm retired at age 55.
It's fantastic.
Hopefully I don't ever have to go back to work. But and then, so that was one of the financial reliefs, one of the blessings. And then also I ended up looking up my daughter, who I placed up for adoption, and I was reunited with her 10 years ago. And so I intuitively know how to handle the situation, right? Like the old Peggy would have went in and said, hey, here I am.
Yeah.
Look at me. Love me.
It's all about me.
It's all about me. And what can I get from this relationship, right? And so I went to Catholic because I still have that in me.
Yep.
Yeah,
I know it's a piece of me.
Yep.
Ism.
So I went to Catholic Charities and said, how do I handle this? And I was going through my master's at the time, and I thought, well, I don't want to go through my master's and then reunite with her because that's just too much. I want to have 100% focus on that. So I did that, and I went to Catholic Charities for 9 months, and we reunited on June 22nd, which is my sobriety date of 20 years of sobriety. I got a letter from and she dated it. Like, what kid dates a letter, right? She dated it June 22nd. I can't think, 2012, right? Yeah. And so I opened it up, and I'm like, oh my God, she dated it, and she wrote a beautiful letter to me, and then we reunited. It was like a love affair, and I love her now, and I got 3 beautiful granddaughters and a great son-in-law. So
and I have bumps over my body. It's like
that's awesome.
It's just a beautiful story.
That is a blessing of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember going to Shorty's and saying, am I okay on time?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, all right. Because I do go over. So tell me, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with you just giving me
We won't tell you, but Brian will.
Yeah, Brian, you could tell me. I'm sorry. When we got together, which just was so spiritual, she spilled her drink all over the place. She forgot her lunch. It was like all of these things as a child,
happening.
So I've sort of lost track, but so I graduated. That was my big thing. Those are my 2 biggies. Is I got an education because I always felt stupid, and then I got my master's. Right now, I'm in the boardroom at work. I'm in those meetings, and I say to my sponsor, my stomach is all trenched, and I don't like being the speaker, and I don't like giving PowerPoint presentations, blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do? I mean, how much more, they say, if you want self-esteem, do esteemable things. What else am I going to do, And she said, you're just going to accept the fact that you have this innate thought that you are not smart enough and can't do it. And I started doing that, and boom.
Yeah.
I was kicking ass and taking names,
Love it. Peggy, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
3 things you can leave with the 26-year-old, 25-year-old, 20-year-old, 40-year-old, doesn't matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
So what's the 3 things they should consider right now that will change dramatically the course of their life?
Pick up that 500,000 pound phone and start building your army.
Okay.
Because to me, it was friendships.
Okay.
It was people who shared their story with me, and so I didn't feel so. I found out what normal wasn't, and what started to help me grow. Just immerse yourself in the fellowship.
Love
it's
it.
here, and just do it.
All right. Number 1.
Number 1. Number 2, don't do what I did. So I put the big book on the side for a long, long time, and I got my best friend to be my sponsor. So I guess it's easier to answer, like, what don't do.
Okay, good.
Get somebody older. For me, don't pick out a sponsor right away, because there are people, some are sicker than others, right? So just look around the room and figure out who can be your temporary sponsor, and get a temporary sponsor and see if they're the ones that are going to work for you, and continue to look for somebody who you might want to be like. But just don't run in, and if somebody's chasing you saying, I can be your sponsor, don't pick them.
Right, exactly.
Because that's not what it's about.
Right.
And then thirdly, the third thing, just wait for the miracle. Don't stop before the miracle, because it does happen. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it does happen. The miracle will happen, and your life will turn around. And if you're not feeling like you're achieving anything, call your sponsor and tell her you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, because she's going to tell you you're getting somewhere.
Can't read your own label.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to recap, Peggy, I'll jump in. So just full transparency, when I heard Peggy was on the docket coming in to share her story, I really picture like an 80-year-old woman with her hair all done up. I have no idea why. And what a firecracker. Love the energy.
Love the firecracker.
I had to take a picture. We're going to post on Instagram of your red shoes.
That's it. Just the feet.
Just the energy.
Yeah.
Had to stand up. She's over here doing push-ups, or she's motivating me to do push-ups. So that's outstanding. What I really liked is you quoted the big book several times. And that's kind of a theme that has really stuck out in here. But I love your hope part. I mean, we always dig into Drunkalogs, but I loved, for me, your most impactful was the hope part, and how you shared your promises. And we use that a lot, but you used the word that really stuck out, and that was blessings. So, man, I love having you in here. Hope we can have you back someday.
Will you come back again?
Sure,
totally.
anytime.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
My story's different all the time.
Well, we
Totally.
can talk about the
That's
steps next time.
Oh, yeah,
Let's get
for
down
sure.
to work.
Yeah, there we go.
I can do that for sure.
Peggy, thanks.
Peggy,
Okay.
awesome.
All right, man.
Thanks for
you
joining
guys.
us.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.